I'll be chairman of a committee, and I absolutely pledge to the American people I will use the subpoena power to get every one of those emails unredacted.
BLM, an 8-year-old organization with $60 million on hand, has no office?
The CDC has apparently overestimated the COVID deaths and retracted like 70,000 of them. We'll talk about that. Also, Bloomberg has a pretty condescending way for you to deal with inflation. BLM activists got indicted on federal charges for fraud in their finances. Wow, who would have thought? Some Ukraine updates. Holy cow, we got a lot coming your way on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from a dingy bunker completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. Today it is March 21st, the year of our Lord 2022, coming at you live. Like I said, from the dingy bunker behind enemy lines in California. I had a hilarious post on Instagram yesterday. It's got like 1 million views so far. You should go see it. Jobob on Instagram. But we got a lot to talk about today. The CDC has overestimated COVID deaths. Who would have thought? Daily Caller reporting there. But first, let's get to this. I think polling continues to show that like 87%, like in the high 80s of Americans are paying close attention to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So I want to just very, very briefly catch you up to date of what's going on there. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Vervashuk, I think that's how you pronounce it, said early Monday that surrendering the eastern port of Mariupol is not an option and demanded that Russian forces allow the safe passage of civilians. Not a ton of new breaking stuff has happened over the weekend. Last week, we talked about how we're going to talk about Ukraine. You can find a lot of the terrible footage throughout the internet. Here, we're kind of mostly trying to talk about policy and things that will actually make a difference and probably have an impact on the United States of America. There's a bunch of other stuff elsewhere. If you want to see videos of that, you can go check out over there or other places. But we're just kind of staying in the pocket of like policy-wise what's happening and covering it before we move on to other stuff, because there is other crazy stuff that we got to get to today. Again, the CDC retracting like 70,000 COVID deaths. But before we talk more about that, the statement that Ukraine will not surrender Mariupol comes after Russia's Ministry of Defense called on Ukraine to surrender the besieged city by 5 a.m. local time on Monday, which they did not do, adding that it would open humanitarian corridors for troops who lay down arms. And then you'd have to trust Russia, which is not a good thing to be doing at any point. The governor of the Sumy region said that there's been an ammonia leak at a chemical plant on Monday as a result of the Russian airstrike, so that's not good. Emergency services in the capital, Kyiv, said at least 4 people have been killed on Monday after Russian shelling of a residential housing and a shopping district. And again, not that nothing is happening over there, but this is just some things that I feel like you need to know about going forward with this. President Biden will be visiting Poland on Friday. They've been talking about that for a couple of weeks. I think he was supposed to go like 2 weeks ago. Then it was next week or the week after that. Then now it's this week. So the end of this week, Friday, President Biden is going to meet with the Polish president, the White House announced Friday, March 25th. So we'll keep an eye on that. Anything that comes of that, we will bring it to you. But I know a lot of you hopping on to hear this story. The CDC retracts 70,000 COVID deaths, including lowering the rate of child mortality via COVID to, well, it was already almost zero, but now even less than that. If you haven't already, there's a couple thousand of you watching this. I see it on the screen. Just click the little like button, the little sad button, the angry button, the laughing one, I guess, if you have a sick, twisted sense of humor, and click the little share button. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't take anything for you to do, but it really, really helps us out. So we really, really appreciate all of you doing that. But I got to get to this. This is out of the Daily Caller News Foundation. CDC says it accidentally inflated COVID death numbers in a Coding logic error. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, revised its data this week to reduce pediatric deaths from COVID-19 by nearly 24%. Again, this is reporting out of the Daily Caller News Foundation. On Tuesday, the CDC was reporting on its COVID data tracker that 1,700 Americans under the age of 18 had died from the virus since the pandemic in 2020, which is a crazy low number, by the way. Just so we're all staying on track here. Fortunately, thank God, that is a crazy small number, especially when you extrapolate to a country of 330 million people. Now, though, so up until last week, the CDC was reporting 1,755 Americans under the age of 18, so pediatric kids. Now, it's reporting 1,341 deaths in that category, taking off over 400 deaths of child mortality rates, which again, nobody is happy about kids dying from COVID. That's not what we're saying here at all. What we're saying is that schools shut down. Kids faced massive emotional trauma having to wear masks and staying at home. The learning loss was massive, especially for lower income families who couldn't afford to send their kids to private schools. And now we're finding out that the CDC inflated the COVID death numbers amongst kids by 24%. So there's that. This was a tweet that the Daily Caller was basing a lot of this reporting off of. I forget who the tweet was, and I feel bad. I feel like I should give him credit here. Maybe I'll find it a little bit later and bring you her name. In small print at the bottom of the site, a coding error was listed as the reason for incorrectly inflated numbers. Correction, the updated numbers, the CDC may have removed closer to 70,000 COVID deaths. Difficult to tell exact what the prior data has been removed. The CDC said the number was revised on March 15th due to a coding logic error. How many people freaking believe that? Let me know in the comment section. Do you believe the CDC is accidentally making tiny mistakes? Or do you think somebody's trying to cover their butt? According to the footnote of the agency's COVID data tracker, pediatric deaths counted were not only the only ones to be lowered. Total deaths were reduced by roughly 70,000. An adjustment, this is again back to the Daily, this is the Daily Caller quoting the Washington Examiner. An adjustment was made to the COVID death tracker mortality data on March 14th involving the removal of 72,277 deaths, including 416 pediatric deaths. Deaths previously reported across 26 states because the CDC's algorithm was accidentally counting deaths that were not COVID-19 related. Jasmine Reed, a spokesperson for the CDC, told the Washington Examiner. Working with near real-time data in an emergency is a critical guide to decision-making. All right, pause really quick, just to level set here. So I will grant them the fact that it is very difficult trying to work with real-time data as an emergency is taking place. But I think the one thing we all should have learned from this COVID development, or through the entirety of it, is that we shouldn't overreact to real-time data coming in. We should instead probably underreact, and maybe underreact is not the right term, but be slow to react. Because what happened was COVID data came in, and the government and dictators around the country were super quick to go, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. Find solutions that didn't actually end up working, rather than be slow to react to the data because the data was wrong in so many other cases. I'm not sure where the total COVID number deaths is, but I remember it being somewhere around like 700,000 pretty recently. So taking 72,000 COVID deaths off of those numbers would be reducing it by 10%, which is not a small or insignificant number. According to the CDC's weekly provisional data, only 921 children have died for reasons involving COVID-19, an even lower number than the official data tracker now presents. The provisional data reported by the CDC typically lags by some period. That's being fair to the CDC, I guess. Far fewer children have died during the pandemic than any other age group. Again, thank God. Children under the age of 5 are the only group of Americans still ineligible for vaccination against the virus, but children make up less than 0.1% of the total COVID-19 deaths. The mortality rate for minors, even those unvaccinated, remains lower than for vaccinated adults. So there's that. We're going to leave that there because that just is what it is. Bottom lining this for you, the CDC is now revising their numbers because of a coding logic error. What that really is now I think people higher up in the CDC are realizing, holy cow, people are onto us. We need to fix the data before somebody else calls us on it, and we'll just blame it on a coding error. Again, if you're just joining us, I see there's like another 1,000 of you jumping on right now. If you're just joining us, the story we're covering right now is the CDC inflated COVID deaths by a lot, including like 24% for kids who weren't really at risk to begin with. Yeah, we're going to leave that there, and that is what it is, because I got to get to this. This is actually pretty interesting too, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of coming through the pipeline as we go. BLM activist and her husband are indicted on federal charges for scamming donations. Who is shocked? Raise your hand. Do the little hand raiser emoji thing in the comment section if you're just floored, utterly and completely shocked that a BLM activist is indicted on federal charges for committing fraud. Founders of the Boston nonprofit Violence in Boston has been accused of using monetary donations to pay for personal expenses, including rent, shopping, vacations, and car rentals. Who would have thought this could happen? As reported by the Boston Globe. Per a statement from the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, the couple made false statements on various financial reports. Is anyone else surprised? We saw this, like a year ago when Patrisse Cullors, the co-founder of the Marxists, the trained Marxist by her own definition, bought several multi-million-dollar houses with charity money. And there's that. Monica Cannon Grant and her husband Clark Grant were charged with 2 counts of wire fraud conspiracy, 13 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of conspiracy, 1 count of making false statements to a mortgage lending company, and 1 count of mail fraud, reports the National Review. When looking into this, so this is not big BLM. This is a BLM activist in a small local chapter who is scamming donations. Well, the entire thing is a scam. The BLM, not the statement. We're all now on the same page of, yes, statement-wise, Black Lives Matter. Nobody's arguing against that. But the foundations and the incorporated entity that is Black Lives Matter is a scam. And all of your big companies that donated to Black Lives Matter, the scam organization, are now retracting their financial, not obligations, their charity component. Amazon a couple weeks ago took Black Lives Matter off of their charity funding platform. So there's that. I got to this, when looking into this sort of thing, I got this clip from, you know what? I didn't even play my Rand Paul clip. I'm going to play this first. The Black Lives Matter. This is Glenn Beck, a clip from his show talking about Black Lives Matter and the offices that they hold or don't hold. Check this out.
Now, this is where it gets even more weird. A reporter for the Examiner recently went to the LA address listed on BLM's tax filings, and a security guard at the building said there has never, ever been a BLM office at that location. The security guard told the reporter, quote, we get a lot of packages being dropped off for them, and we just say, take the packages back because there's no Black Lives Matter here. Later, an unidentified BLM spokesperson emailed the Examiner and said, quote, "We wish to inform you at this time, we do not maintain a permanent office." Now, hang on. Let that sink in for a minute. BLM, an 8-year-old organization that's out to change the world, destroy capitalism, with $60 million on hand, has no office? Really?
Yeah, so $60 million company, for-profit business, Black Lives Matter, the organization, doesn't even have an office front. Holy cow, I can't even imagine what I would do. If I had $60 million, I'd get a big old nice fancy office front. But instead, a lot of it went to deepening the pockets of the founders and going towards their real estate purchases and financial investments. So there's that. Let me see. Oh, I want to get to this. This is actually kind of interesting. Speaking of the media and being bad at things, this is a Bloomberg opinion piece. This is tweeted yesterday. What's the date today? 21st, Saturday. It was tweeted Saturday. Bloomberg opinion tweeted this big thing. If you're just listening to this, sorry about that, but this is a very visual thing. Look at this Twitter post from Bloomberg. The Twitter post says inflation stings if you earn less than $300,000 per year. Here's how to, oh my gosh, I can't see that word. What's that word? Deal. Here's how to deal. Take the bus. Don't buy in bulk. Try lentils instead of meat. Nobody said this would be fun. Yeah, read the room, Bloomberg. Not cool, dude. Whoever wrote that, I didn't take the time to pull this author's name. I did look up the article and wanted to read a little bit of it. In Bloomberg, this is an opinion piece talking about inflation. If you don't make $300,000, here's how you can deal with it. If your income is more than $289,000 a year, the run-up in gas pricings take two. But it's unlikely to hammer your overall finances. After all, Americans at that level spend no more than 1% of their take-home pay on gas and oil, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics. For those earning much less, it's a different story. Those in the median with an income of about $50,000 a year spend more than 3% of their money on gas and motor oil. Low-income households making between $7,000 and $19,000 spend about 9%. Holy cow, that is a big old chunk of your annual income. The latest inflation numbers show that gas prices jumped 6.6% in February from a month earlier. We're not even into the overall after all this crazy stuff happened. Remember, the Biden administration is continuing to ban Russia. Continuing to ban Russian oil, and then blame Putin for the rise in gas prices, even though gas prices, those little stickers that have Joe Biden pointing and said, "Hurry, did that," those were around way before the whole Putin invading Ukraine situation. This is what I thought was really interesting from this Bloomberg opinion piece. When it comes to food, don't be afraid to explore. Prices for animal-based food products will certainly increase. Russia-Ukraine is a significant supplier of blah, 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 blah. Meat prices have increased about 14% from February 2021 and will go up even more. Through your palate might not be used to tasty meat substitutes, including vegetables, where the price has only gone up 4%, or lentils and beans, which are up about 9%. So you can save 5% if instead you go from meat to lentils. You poor peasant, you, says the Bloomberg opinion author. Plan to cut out the middle creature and consume plants directly. It's more efficient, healthier, and a cheaper way to get calories. F off, dude. Seriously? I don't know if this is just written specifically for a specific audience that would love this sort of thing, this New York-centric, Manhattan-based, super lefty audience that would be like, yeah, you tell those flyover states to eat lentils instead of beef. But the look is not good from Bloomberg, especially after a bunch of people are railing against this via social media. So there's that. I didn't get to play my Rand Paul clip because I just forgot, but maybe we'll play that tomorrow. Rand Paul was on Hannity talking about whether or not he'd investigate Dr. Fauci, who's made a return to the public scene. He was on ABC this week. Maybe we'll play that tomorrow. But it's really just to kind of poke fun at him because he's back on ABC this week with George Stephanopoulos saying, well, we may see a resurgence and may need to, again, my Fauci sounds a lot like my Bernie Sanders. We may see a resurgence of COVID, so we may need to mask up. You never know. We may need to stay inside for the next 1,000 years, says the Fauci. Yeah. So that's going to do it for us today. I will. Sorry for that sound there. Tomorrow, we got some pretty interesting statistics. We'll be live from Phoenix, Arizona. I got to hop on a plane here in about 45 minutes. But we'll see you from Phoenix. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. I'm on Twitter, Getter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. The Truth. I'm on Truth Social now. I don't use it quite as much because it doesn't work super awesome. I'm hoping they'll fix some kinks out there because I am verified, so there's that. You can find me on any of your social media platforms. Would appreciate a follow. Also, again, like I said, I posted a reel on Instagram last night. It's got like 1 million views so far because it's freaking hilarious. But not if you live in Texas. If you live in Texas, unfortunately, it's not. It's true and it's funny, but it's not good for your state. Don't California my Texas is all I'll say. So check me out on Instagram. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, different place. We'll be live from Phoenix, Arizona. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you missed any segment of the show, you can rewatch on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, anywhere you can find this episode. It's also download the podcast. Listen to me rant and ramble while you mow the lawn or clean the pool or do any other household chores or drive to work. However you feel is, whatever you feel is necessary. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in. God bless America.